I walked out of prison thinking I was free. Turns out, I just stepped into a much bigger cell.
In April 2019, 36-year-old Calvin Granger walked out of Ironcrest Correctional Facility in upstate Illinois, clutching a duffel bag and a letter from the state. He had spent 11 years behind bars for an armed robbery he always claimed he didn't commit. And now, without any notice to his lawyers or family, he was free. The reason? A death row inmate named Marcus Tolliver, infamous for the 2003 Lockwood Farm murders, had handed prison authorities a signed confession stating that he had committed the robbery Calvin had been jailed for. But what should have been a miracle quickly turned into a nightmare, because just 2 months later, Calvin disappeared, and anyone who tried to help him before that started dying.
Who was Calvin Granger? Calvin was no saint, but he wasn't a criminal either. Born in 1983 in Joliet, Illinois, he was raised by a single mother and worked odd jobs throughout his 20s, mostly as a mechanic. He had no serious criminal record, just a couple of misdemeanors. But in 2008, that changed. A convenience store in Southside Chicago was hit late one night. The clerk was pistol whipped, and over $14,000 was stolen from the safe. Surveillance footage was grainy, but prosecutors zeroed in on Calvin based on one key detail: a partial print on a soda near the register. Despite his alibi and a defense that argued the print could have come from a prior visit, Calvin was convicted. The clerk, who later admitted to being pressured by detectives, identified Calvin in court. He was sentenced to 25 years. No DNA, no video evidence, just a fingerprint and one man's word. In 2015, Calvin was transferred to Ironcrest. That's where he met Marcus Tolliver. Tolliver was notorious. Convicted in 2007 of murdering a family of 4 on a secluded farm near Peoria. But there was more to him than the media stories let on. In prison, Marcus played a different game: calm, observant, calculating. He was a man who read legal books for fun and kept a mental dossier on every inmate he met. By all accounts, Calvin and Marcus didn't get along at first. Calvin was quiet and kept himself. Marcus liked to talk. But around 2017, something changed. They became close. Calvin helped Marcus write letters, organize case files, even coach him through an appeal hearing. "I think Marcus saw Calvin as useful," said Derek Mendez, a former guard Ironcrest. "But Calvin? He just wanted someone to talk to." Then, out of nowhere, in early 2019, Tolliver confessed. He gave the prison warden a notarized letter. He said he had robbed a convenience store, named the same store, gave dates, times, even details only the perpetrator would know, like the fact that the store clerk had a dog in the back room. The case exploded. Calvin's conviction was overturned in a matter of weeks. No retrial, no further investigation. The state signed the papers, and Calvin walked out. But the question that nobody asked then was, why would a death row inmate confess to a crime he didn't commit? For the first time in 11 years, Calvin tasted freedom. He moved into a halfway house in Joliet, got a part-time job at a garage, and started therapy. Local news outlets hailed it as a rare victory of justice. But Calvin didn't celebrate. According to his therapist, Dr. Lena Hargrove, he was paranoid, convinced that his release wasn't what it seemed. He told me that he'd wake up at 3 a.m. expecting the cell walls to close in, she said. And then he started talking about being watched. And then 3 strange things happened. First, Michael Kerr, a private investigator. Calvin's sister had hired him to dig into the original robbery case. He started re-examining evidence, filing FOIA requests. 2 weeks later, Michael was found dead in his apartment. Suicide, they said, but his notes were missing. His laptop was wiped. Dr. Lena Hargrove, the one Calvin hires to investigate this, was attacked while jogging 3 sessions into her work with Calvin. A man in a ski mask hit her from behind. She survived, but her office was later broken into. Only Calvin's files were taken. On June 1st, 2019, just 2 months after his release, Calvin Granger himself disappeared. He never picked up his last paycheck. His phone was left at his apartment. His wallet was found in a trash bin outside a gas station 30 miles away. Security footage showed him talking to a man in a black hoodie near the bus depot. Police never identified the man. After Calvin vanished, an investigative reporter named Danny Royce from the Record started digging. She got a hold of prison mail logs, visitor logs, and interviewed several former inmates. What she uncovered was chilling. Tolliver, who supposedly confessed to help an innocent man, had been corresponding with a mysterious law firm in Virginia before the confession. The firm didn't exist on paper, but the letters revealed something deeper. They offered Tolliver something called Procedure 11R, a rumored federal loophole that allowed death row inmates to be transferred into witness protection in exchange for information useful to the government. Of course, Procedure 11R doesn't officially exist, but Tolliver's appeal hearing was suddenly delayed indefinitely after confession. He was quietly moved to a medical wing. No official record of the transfer. A month later, he disappeared from Iron Crest altogether. The biggest twist came when Danny obtained a sealed internal memo from the Illinois Bureau of Prisons. It referenced a project called Clean Ledger. According to the document, Clean Ledger was a covert operation to reduce overcrowding in prisons by releasing low-risk inmates through legal technicalities. They used false confessions, evidence manipulations, and even had law clerks pose as legal aides. Why? To bury certain cases that tied back to corrupt cops, faulty forensics, and tainted judges. Calvin's robbery case was one of them. The fingerprint used to convict him? It had been flagged in another investigation, an internal affairs probe involving a retired detective named Raymond Lusk. Lusk was suspected of planting evidence in over 12 cases. The same man who found Calvin's fingerprint. And Lusk? He was found dead of a heart attack 3 days after Calvin was released. Calvin wasn't supposed to dig. Clean Ledger had let him go quietly. Tolliver was rewarded for his fake confession with transfer and protection. The operation stayed in the dark, but Calvin couldn't let it go. He wanted to know the truth. Why he was framed. Why Tolliver confessed. Why people around him were dying. That curiosity cost him. Danny Royce's final article, published weeks after Calvin's disappearance, suggested that he may have been silenced, not by a criminal gang, not by Tolliver, but by the same shadow bureaucracy that had let him out. A former DOJ agent she interviewed under anonymity said this:
"Sometimes freedom is the cleanest way to make someone disappear. You give them a new start, then take away the ground beneath them."
Where's Calvin? Officially, Calvin Granger is listed as a missing person. The case is still open, but rumors persist online. Some say he's in Mexico, hiding under a new name. Others believe he's dead, buried somewhere between Joliet and Peoria. A few think he's still trying to expose the truth. In an anonymous message sent to a local podcast host in 2021, someone claiming to be Calvin wrote, "I never asked for the truth. I asked for my life back. And now they've taken both." In March 2023, Marcus Tolliver resurfaced, not in prison, not in witness protection. He was arrested in Flagstaff, Arizona, for breaking into a house. When processed, he gave a false name, but fingerprints revealed his identity. He refused to speak to police. But while being transported, he allegedly told a guard,
"Tell the Bureau I want my deal back. I kept my end. Calvin's gone. That's what they wanted."
Justice or just gone? To this day, no charges have been filed in Calvin Granger's disappearance. No one has been held accountable for the deaths of Michael Kerr, Dr. Lena's assault, or the fallout from Clean Ledger. And Marcus Tolliver? He's back in federal custody, location undisclosed. But one thing is clear: the justice system that failed Calvin once may have erased him a second time. Leave a flashlight emoji in the comments if you believe Calvin is still alive. Watch out for part 2 of the Cellmate Confession.